Good morning and welcome to Wake Up with the Consciousness Cafe on SoulCall Ministries Wisdom Wednesday. My name is Lisa Ferraro and I am so excited to welcome this morning, this bright and early morning, Amber Darland, who is a singer-songwriter extraordinaire, brilliant human. I had the pleasure of meeting this past February serving on a music team for the Centers for Spiritual Living. It's so great to see you this morning. Welcome.
Thank you, Lisa, for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Your music is so, and your voice, the simplicity, the honesty just cuts right through everything else. It's almost like, I was going to say a parting of things, but that would imply that there was like a this and a that. But what yours does is cuts through whatever is creating a this and a that and brings it all back together. And you just create a feeling of oneness and such beauty. Have you always known you had a gift for something like that? When did you realize you just brought that kind of energy?
Oh, well, thank you for that. That means a lot coming from you. My music has always been my calling since I was young, I think. From as long as I can remember to, I think about my earliest friendships. People would call me Dr. Darland, my friends they'd come for me for advice or whatever. And I've always felt like as a communicator, I've been able to kind of bring things together and give some sort of succinct message, and trying to, of course, over the years, find that space of what's mine to say and what's others to just hear and figure out and listen to the world and figure out on their own. Because of course that part of my personality can get me into trouble too. But I think specifically with the songwriting, I've been writing songs, but for a long, long time. In fact, up until just last year when I came out with this latest album, There's a Calling, which is funny. I mean, I think about SoulCall Ministries and it feels so appropriate to be here talking with you because that album was, it was born really with the song There's a Calling, which I wrote sitting next to a river on the east side of the mountains here in Washington State. And I just felt so strongly that there was this calling to go into ministry. And I don't know what that means, because ministry means a lot of things, but in my own way, whether it's through music or, through talking with folks like you, I don't know what it is, but there's this, there's this call in that album, getting back to your question. There's a Calling, that song is probably one of the most complex or most wordy of all the songs on the album. And the rest of them are really repetitive and just sort of like mantras. And it was one of the easiest records that I've ever written and then been able to produce, because I just surrendered to this process of what I feel was spirit coming through me.
We are falling like the leaves of autumn, somehow already forgotten, the tree from which we came.
And just being more of a vessel rather than trying to be the songwriter, trying to feel the pressure of creating some project that people are gonna go, oh my gosh, she's amazing. Rather than that, it was just like, no, you know what? We're just going to be I'm going to just say what is coming up and let it be,
Well, you're just saying that right there is so brilliant, because taking into a lot of people are challenged right now with the global pandemic and moving through various stages of it, even though we're able to get around a little bit more here and there.
Mm-hmm.
The process of is creating a container and not saying what it's going to be. Like that surrender zone. How can you recognize that this is Italian for quality? Like the quality of the way it comes through, when letting go, like giving yourself permission to let it just come through and not try to pretend like I'm creating this great thing.
Mm-hmm. So how do I know that quality?
Yeah,
Is that,
how can you discern that from when you are doing it? Like, because I'm
yeah.
sure, like as writers, I used to write jingles, for example, and
Mm-hmm.
there'd be a certain way I'd have to let them come through in a playful way. There was also the craft of it that kind of had to be tidy and it had to look a certain way.
Right.
And I knew when I was doing it and when it was, or a combination sometimes, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think there's naturally, you know, the tools and the skills that we gather along through our lifetime to be able to, you know, to hone in on our gifts. But getting back to the question of that quality, I mean, I know the songs that I've written, and you know, I always hope when I turn on that faucet of songwriting, I always think of it as a faucet. You know, it's like you turn it on and there's just this like rusty water that comes out, and you write and you write and you write, and then at some point it becomes like crystal clear, and it just flows with such ease. Um, and that's when, I mean, I think this is the wisdom I've gathered in my, you know, in my short lifetime at this point too, is just that when you're flowing with that river and there's ease, like that's when everything comes into alignment, and that's when you know you're like exactly where you're supposed to be. So, and it doesn't mean that you don't hit walls and you're not challenged, or that you don't hit obstacles and you're like, oh, this isn't easy, I'm going this way. It just it comes back to, I think, that listening and that knowing. And it's hard to describe other than there is this like flow that happens where you just feel so in alignment with yourself, and yourself meaning like it all, you know, all of it. So
If you find yourself out of sorts, now what is your spiritual practice? How do you help yourself to find center? And especially at a time like this, I know things are so shifted and changed, but what is your spiritual practice? Do you do something every day aside from writing perhaps, or
mm-hmm.
you
Yeah, well,
like a tidbit of a soul call wisdom?
yeah. um Well, you know, actually just this morning, I was out early on a run, and I find getting out into nature is basically like my real daily practice is getting out into nature, and oftentimes it comes with just really today on my run, I partly because I just felt like I needed to clear my mind, and also because sometimes getting out on a run is hard work and I need to figure out how to push through. I decided to, and I do this often, where I just I go through every single, as many as I can, every single like bone and ligament in my body, you know, trying to pay attention and just give gratitude and bring presence into my body.
Yeah.
Um, and that, you know, and one thing that I noticed today is, which this is a metaphor for life too, you know, is when you start paying attention or bringing presence to areas of your life, you realize the places where you've completely neglected. And this morning on my run, it was my middle toe. I realized I had a middle toe. Like I was going, it was like big toe, like toe next to the toe, and then like pinky toe and ring toe. I don't know what you call it, but like the middle toe, I couldn't even feel it. And I was trying to bring awareness to it, and it took me probably like a half a mile to connect with it. But when I did, it was like, oh, this is what we're supposed to do, you
That's,
know?
man, you don't even let the little digit get left out.
Well, see, that one gets stubbed all the time. So it's like presence to that one, but yeah, anyway.
That's hilarious. I love that because
Mhm.
that's it. It sounds like a simple practice,
Mhm.
nice, but then when you try to do it, so it's interesting because in the practice of presence and while you're in motion, you've got your body moving and all of this, but that is like meditation to keep bringing it back to the thing, and it's not
Mhm.
working, bring it back, and that's the
Mhm.
process of meditation, is to gently bring the mind back. Notice when it's not doing it, and just bring it back.
Right.
Uh, and you said something else too that's important for people on a spiritual path who are listening is, success isn't final, failure isn't fatal. I said that last week during a talk. Every day it's a matter of making the choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was sitting next to the writer Nora Ephron at she was doing a speaking engagement in Pittsburgh years ago. And I ended up sitting next to her during a dinner, pre-tuck dinner. And I just remembered asking her, do you like writing? And she looked at me and she said, I said, do you still like writing? And she said, I don't like writing. I like having written.
Mm.
And so I thought, okay, that implies so many layers of things. And I bring that back to you again, Amber, in that practice of that first 5 minutes, like you don't really feel like doing it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's important for people to hear from successful musicians and artists who are doing it internationally that you don't, do you think you reach a point where you just automatically just feel like it?
No, and that again comes to the practice. When you ask, do you write every day, or is there a part of your spiritual practice? And writing every day is one of my biggest struggles, and yet that is my job, kind of, or it's like the path that I've chosen. And so I think there's and you're right. I love what you said about sort of that this is what meditation is. And I was working on a song the other night, and I'm really struggling with the lyrics, and they're still sitting over there on my piano, just waiting to continue to be worked at, but also, finding that time or finding that place of how much to accept something where it's at, and then also push it to that edge,
Yeah.
And so, I don't, the songs or the places of writing, I love that having written, that feels really good. I love to like type it up and be like, look at the song I wrote, but it's that practice that can be a real struggle. And I think just finding that, bringing it back to presence. I mean, truly, when I'm not fighting against it or trying to create something or make something that, it's kind of like parenting, honestly. I have a 7.5-year-old, and, you just
Amazing.
have to like give some structure, but otherwise let the child lead the way, in so many ways.
So give some structure and then let it lead the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. As an artist, that's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
You were telling me a story right before we started recording. We were just talking. You were telling me about a dot and falling into a. Tell me that story again.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, we were talking about this recurring dream that I used to have as a kid, and I, I think a lot of people are awakening right now to this oneness, especially with the pandemic. And people are having vivid dreams, and I've been having kind of some really interesting dreams. And I was reminded of this dream that I had as a child where there was this old growth tree that had fallen over, and it was actually in real life, that was a space that or a place that I would visit as a child when we'd go on walks in the evenings. And there was a huge, hole at the bottom of it. And I would dream about this hole because it was huge to my little eyes, and I would dream about the hole, that I would fall into this hole, and there would be this kind of this tiny little speck that was like black, so black, but also I knew it was full of light. It was like it was holding the same thing. Just that, and there was always this, I could always hear many, many voices saying some and some and some and some, and it was just like stacking and stacking and stacking. And even now, like when I'm in the quiet of the woods, or I am really going inside in meditation or something, I'll hear this where it sounds like, a bazillion voices.
Yeah.
But yet the most quiet, but like giving this message of like, it almost is like expansive growth, right? Or like infinity. It's like it's everything and nothing all at once,
Yeah, beautiful. What an experience to have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the calling of the soul, to let the structures kind of shape us, but allow the thing to fill in for that, getting on the edge. I love that. I love that you write from there, because you create that kind of possibility when you sing. You really do.
Mm.
And I want to thank you again. My guest this morning is Amber Darland, joining us from Bellingham, Washington State.
Yes.
And Amber's beautiful music is going to be with us this evening on Soul Sessions starting at 7 p.m. SoulCallMinistries.org. And also our YouTube channel is SoulCall Ministries. You can stream us there. And then also, SoulCall Sundays. Amber is going to be my guest on a couple of the SoulCall Sundays as well. Thank you for sharing your beauty, your being, your consciousness, your music. And thank you for being with us this morning.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa.
And tell us your website again, please.
Oh, yes. It's just amberdarland.com.
Yeah.
Yep.
And your new recording, we'll have that up on our website or someplace. Anywhere we're using your music, people will know how to find you. Can't wait to be with you again in person.
I know. Yeah, me too.
Thank you again.
All right. Thanks. Bye, Lisa.
Peace, everybody. Many blessings. Have a really great day.